We have with us today Professor Richard Dawkins, who's known worldwide for his book on the God delusion, but he's also written extensively on genetics. We wrote to Richard to ask him whether he'd read one of the chapters of King James Bible, and he immediately responded very generously, saying yes. And the first question I put to him, therefore, is why, given his background, did he want to participate in this project, and what does the King James Bible mean to him and to the country?
You can't appreciate English literature unless you know something about the Greek gods. You can't appreciate Wagner unless you know something about the Norse gods. You can't appreciate English literature unless you are, to some extent at least, steeped in the King James Bible. There are phrases that come from it. People don't realize they come from it. Proverbial phrases, phrases that make echoes in people's minds. They haunt our minds because we are a Christian culture. We come from a Christian culture. And not to know the King James Bible is to be, in some small way, barbarian.
I then asked Richard to give us some of the examples of those phrases which are part of the English language today but might surprise people that are in the King James Bible.
And I made a list, I think it was about 2 pages, of phrases that come from the Bible that many people don't even realize. Pick out a few. East of Eden. Am I my brother's keeper? The mark of Cain. A mess of pottage. A coat of many colours. Amid the alien corn. That wonderful phrase, amid the alien corn. The fatted calf. Stranger in a strange land. The half was not told me. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose. Many waters cannot quench love. Beat their swords into plowshares. It just goes on and on and on. Weeping and gnashing of teeth. The Gadarene swine. New wine in old bottles. Shake off the dust of your feet. Seeds falling upon stony ground. These are phrases that people use all the time. And you can't get your ear in for English unless you know the literature from which this comes, the King James Bible.
Any other advice to us as a trust trying to open windows onto the world rather than close them?
Well, I think it is important to make the case that the Bible is part of our heritage and it doesn't have to be tied to religion. I mean, it's of historic interest, it's of literary interest, and it's important that religion should not be allowed to hijack this cultural resource.
I'm Neil McGregor, the director of the British Museum, and one of the many things that I find fascinating about the King James Bible is that it is, of course, one of the first British things to be made. It's one of the first things that is made by the whole island and to be used by the whole island. The fact that it's devised to be read in churches both in England and in Scotland, even though those are different kinds of Christian churches, and then goes on to be used by churches of the whole English-speaking world, even though they have different understandings of the faith. It is, I think, one of the most unifying texts probably that's ever been made. It's also, of course, in a sense, the official text of the British Empire. It's the one book that the British took with them everywhere. And there are very few objects, I think, that have those kinds of connections. For several hundred years, it was the one shared text of English speakers around the whole world. And it held that world together, I think, in a way that no other text could have, and indeed that very few texts have done anywhere. Very few empires have a founding text like that.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
He maketh me to lie down in green pastures.
He leadeth me beside the still waters.
He restoreth my soul.
He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil.
For thou art with me.
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies.
Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over.
Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life,
and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
I want to congratulate everybody involved in the King James Bible Trust for the work they do in bringing one of the greatest pieces of world literature to greater public attention and reminding everybody of the supreme place that it enjoys in our history and our culture.
The King James Bible is one of the greatest works of literature ever written, a great inspiration for us all. I wish the Trust every success.
This is the single book which not just helped shape our nation, but helped shape England in the world and gave the world one of its great languages.